Rodney sat on a park bench looking at the sunset as if he was watching it for the last time. Dejected, he reflected on his life and wondered where he went wrong. Every bad decision, every opportunity missed ran through his mind over and over again like a scratched record. The crushing weight of providing for a family just got heavier than ever with the loss of the one job he was able to get. He didn't even have the $1,000 needed to pay this month's rent. How am I going to explain this to my wife, he thought to himself. Rodney stared into that horizon, hoping that God would answer his prayers, that he would rescue him, and with a wave of his mighty hand, all his problems would disappear like magic. But sadly, like so many other times, those prayers went unanswered. Contemplating the conversation he was going to have with his wife, he took a deep breath and buried his face in his hands. Although he was surrounded by kids playing, dogs barking, and cars whizzing by, he felt so alone with just his dark thoughts to keep him company. "Hi there," a smooth, warm voice said, startling him. Rodney slowly raised his head. Sulking, he didn't notice the man that had taken a seat next to him on the bench. "Tough day?" the stranger said. Rodney's hazel eyes began to focus on the gentleman. He noticed the clean black suit, crisp white shirt, and black tie that made up the attire of the well-groomed man with the sympathetic expression. "Whatever you're selling, I'm not interested," Rodney said rather dismissively. "Oh, I'm not a salesman. I offer opportunities." Rodney looked down at his shoes, which were polished and shining like mirrors, as he said, "I have a church home." The man scooted closer and bent over so that he was face to face with Rodney. "And how is that working out for you?" Rodney raised an eyebrow as he locked eyes with the man for the first time. The stranger's eyes were so dark, it was like looking at midnight. His olive skin stretched over his slender face with prominent features, a sharp contrast to Rodney's stocky build. Rodney sat up on the bench as the man's demeanor finally grabbed his attention. Although the thought had run through his mind, he never thought about actually speaking the words until now. Nothing. "I know, it's funny how the church is always broke. They always need your money, your 10%, but when the shoe is on the other foot, they tell you to pray for what you need," the strange man said with a smile. "Yeah, you're right. But what if I could offer you real help? Put cash in your pocket right here, right now? What kind of game are you running, man?" "No game," the stranger said. "What's the catch?" Rodney asked. "All you have to do is say this," the stranger said. "You serious?" Rodney asked. "Dead serious. Here is $2,000. Get on your knees and read what's on the card and the money is yours." Rodney scratched his head as he mulled over his offer. The money could pay his rent and buy him some time. He glanced at the sun again and back down at the card. "Fuck it. What do I have to lose?" he thought to himself. Closing his eyes, he took in a breath and held it. As he released it, he fell to a knee and began reading off the card. "You are the light bringer, the knowledge giver, the most beautiful of all, a king above all others, and the world will bow at your feet." Rodney said the words that sounded like the Heather Headley song, "He is." The stranger closed his eyes and his body trembled like he had an orgasm. With a sinister grin, he took Rodney's hand and placed the money in it. "Here you go as promised, and there's more where that came from. When you're ready." Rodney took the cash and thumbed through it. "More? I can end your misery. Help you start that restaurant you always wanted. Save your marriage?" Rodney's jaw dropped as he stumbled to get the words out. "How did you know that?" "I know everything about you." Rodney Williams, born August 10th, 1980 in Phoenix, Arizona. Went to culinary school but flunked out in your second year, married in 2009. And you owe $5,000 in back taxes, $6,000 in student loans, $3,000 in back child support, and you lost your job as a line cook this morning. "How did you know about my business? Who the hell are you?" Rodney snapped, stepping forward with aggression. "Those aren't the questions you should be asking. Your focus is all wrong. You should be asking yourself, what do I have to do to get more money?" he said, as he reached into his pocket and pulled out a business card and handed it to him. "Just like I put that money in your hands, I could do so much more than you could ever imagine. Money and power will be at your fingertips. It's the opportunity of a lifetime," he said, straightening his suit and smoothing down his black wavy hair. "Think about it, and when you're ready, call me." Rodney took the card and studied it closely. On the front was a gold star. He flipped it to the back to find only a phone number. Then his focus went back to the cash in his hand. He folded the money and the card together, stuffed them in his pocket, and when he looked up again, the strange man was gone. With his head on a swivel to make sure nobody saw him stash the money, Rodney scurried away with a huge grin on his face. As he made his way to his block, Rodney was greeted by the neighborhood like normal. First, there was Henry the mailman, a brother who looked like he was born with a smile on his face. He would always hand-deliver all of Rodney's bills so his wife never saw them. This time he handed him a cancellation notice for his phone bill and a last notice for his light bill. Damn. Next, there was Barney the bum, who lived on the street corner next to an old rundown bar. Rodney would always drop the spare change from his pockets into the man's tin can, and Barney would flash a toothless grin. Then there was Miss Helen and Miss Erlene, their very own neighborhood watch. They sat on the stoop keeping an eye out for everything and keeping their nose in everyone's business. Rodney greeted them with a wave instead of stopping to chat like he usually does. As he made his way to his building, he stepped over Leon's bike, his next-door neighbor's son, who was always in his house every time his son is over visiting. Finally, he breathed a sigh of relief only when he reached his apartment and locked the door. His interaction with this stranger and the fact that he lost his job was going to be his little secret. The first thing to greet Rodney when he walked into his tiny place was a cockroach that made himself at home. As Rodney stepped on him, he looked at the walls covered with cracked paint and wondered about the stranger's offer. Pulling the money out of his pocket and counting it again, Rodney thought to himself that was just an eccentric rich man, probably some crazy bet. He laughed it off as he sat down with his bills. He added up the light bill, phone bill, rent, and his son wanted some new basketball shoes. After he paid them all off, only a few dollars were left over from his windfall. Soon as Rodney sat his keys down after running around and paying off those bills, in walks his wife carrying bags of groceries. Jaleesa was dressed in her waitress uniform after a 12-hour shift at Bernie's diner. Although she smelled like burgers and fried chicken, Rodney didn't care. To him, she was still the most beautiful woman in the world, and every time he looked at her smooth black skin, long curly hair, and dark brown eyes, he wondered how the hell a man like him could keep this amazing woman. "There's my queen. Let me help you with those bags, baby," Rodney said. "You're in a good mood. You must have had a good day at work," she said. "Work was okay, but I came into some cash that was owed to me." "Wow, what did I do to deserve all this? Let me write it down so I can do it again," she said. "You've just always been there for me. You've had my back through thick and thin, and we've had some lean times. I just wanted you to know that I love you so much and I don't know what I'd do without you, and if I could, I'd give you the world," Rodney said. "That's so sweet. But I don't need the world or money or a bunch of fancy things, baby. I married you for you, and together, side by side, we can make it through anything," Jaleesa said as she handed Rodney her check. "At least let me take you out to dinner. How about a nice steak?" Rodney said. "Sounds expensive. How about we go to the Olive Garden?" Jaleesa replied. "You know, despite what you might say, you do deserve the world. You deserve a husband you can be proud of, and I'm going to do everything I can to be that man for you." Over the next 3 weeks, Rodney pounded the pavement looking for a new job. He put in applications everywhere they served food, but he couldn't find anything. Not even McDonald's was hiring to flip burgers. The extra money was quickly drying up, and the first of the month was rapidly approaching again. Rodney found himself at the same park bench, looking at the same evening sun, wondering what was he going to do. He'd borrowed money from so many family members he couldn't show his face at another family function. He tried getting unemployment but was denied. Rodney tried getting a payday loan, but they said his car was too old. "I can't catch a break," he thought to himself. Then it hit him. Rodney reached in his wallet and pulled out that business card that the strange man had given him. Twirling it around in his hands, Rodney contemplated calling for a few ticks. With each second that passed, the hopelessness of his situation became more evident. Feeling he had no choice, he made the call. "Hello, Mr. Williams. I've been waiting to hear from you," the strange man said. "I think I want to take you up on your offer," Rodney replied, pacing back and forth, rubbing the back of his head. "Excellent. Meet me at the park where we met. I'll be there momentarily to discuss terms," he said before abruptly hanging up. Rodney was back on the same park bench again as the strange man approached. He was walking through the park in another black suit carrying a briefcase. He had the look of a confident stockbroker or banker looking to close a big deal. He stood in front of Rodney with his chest out and chin high. "You have made a wise decision, Mr. Williams," he said, setting down his briefcase on the bench. He unlocked the combination and popped the case open. It was neatly filled with stacks of $100 bills as he said, "This is just a small sample of what you can expect." "Wow, Rodney's eyes almost popped out of his head as he ran his fingers over the cash. He picked up a stack and smelled it before rubbing it on his cheek. He was grinning from ear to ear. "This is all mine?" "All yours, my friend, $500,000. "And all I do is read the card like before?" Rodney eagerly asked. The stranger stepped closer and put his hand on Rodney's shoulder. He looked deep into Rodney's eyes and said, "I'm gonna need a little more than that. I want a lifetime commitment from you, that you will serve me as needed. A contract." Rodney laughed. "Yeah, right." The stranger took the cash right out of Rodney's hands and closed the briefcase. "No contract, no cash." With a puzzled look on his face, Rodney asked, "You're serious?" "Always," the stranger responded bluntly. "And just how do I serve you? I ain't on no Puff Daddy shit. I only sleep with my wife," Rodney replied, shaking his head and backing up. The stranger cracked a smile and said, "Nothing like that. I just want your undying loyalty. I want you to bow down and tell the world those words of affirmation that you said before, and I want them forever." The stranger reached into his pocket and pulled out a contract. "I just need a signature." Rodney looked at the contract while fighting off a smile. "This contract is blank." "Don't worry about it. I'll fill it in later. Just sign on the line and the money and all the riches in the world is yours," he said, handing Rodney a pen with a sinister grin. "All I have to do is sign. That's it?" "That's it," he said with a shrug. "What do you have to lose?" The wheels in Rodney's mind began to turn. At first he thought this dude was running some kind of game. Then he thought maybe he is just an eccentric rich man doing things for kicks. But now he was certain this guy was certifiably crazy. He could milk this dude for all he's got. God was finally answering his prayers. Fortune had shined its light on him. This was the opportunity he'd been waiting his whole life for. Jaleesa would be proud of him. His son would brag about him being his father. He quickly signed the contract and swiped the briefcase full of cash. He immediately moved them out of that rat trap and into a condo downtown. Rodney got her a new car, new furniture. And when Jaleesa asked where the money came from, he lied, said he got a loan, but that was only the beginning of his lies. As opportunity after opportunity presented itself, the lies to cover it up got bigger and bigger, especially after he opened his own restaurant chain called Rodney's Place. The string of bar and grill restaurants was so massive and lucrative that it took all his time. And what little time he had left over, the stranger always managed to take, leaving nothing but empty promises for Jaleesa and his son, until they reached their limit and left a year later. 8 years later, Rodney woke up in his luxurious king-size bed. As he turned and looked to his side, he hoped that Jaleesa would be there, that he would see her beautiful brown eyes staring back at him. But it was empty as usual. Dejected, he peeled back the Egyptian cotton sheets and slid his feet into a pair of plush slippers. As he stretched, he looked around his massive master suite that felt cold and isolated. It was so quiet that he could hear the air-conditioned unit click on and start running. Slumped shoulder, he stepped onto the marble floor of his bathroom to brush his teeth and wash his face. Then he slipped on a custom-made suit and some Italian leather shoes. Next, he opened the French doors to his room and made his way down the spiral staircase and into his gourmet kitchen. "Good morning, sir. Do you care for some breakfast?" his wrinkled old butler asked in a thick English accent. "No thanks. I'll take a cup of coffee to go. Have the driver to bring the car around," Rodney replied. "Yes, sir. Here's your paper," he said, handing Rodney a freshly folded newspaper. Rodney opened it up and looked at the date. Then it occurred to him. Today was the 10-year anniversary of the day he took that briefcase of cash from that stranger. He shook his head. His eyes glanced over the headlines until he saw the one with his name on it. "Rodney Williams and his restaurants under investigation for E. coli breakout," Rodney said with disgust as he slammed the paper on the counter. "Damn it!" He grabbed his coffee and slipped into the back seat of his Range Rover. He pulled out his phone and checked his messages. All of them were business-related. No calls or texts from family or friends as usual. He called Jaleesa. "You have to stop calling me like this, Rodney. We are divorced. I have moved on with my life. I suggest you move on with yours," Jaleesa said coldly. "But I still love you," Rodney said as he swallowed hard. "I used to love you, but you're not the man I fell in love with. That money changed you. I'm sorry, but I gotta go." "Goodbye, Rodney," Jaleesa said before abruptly hanging up the phone. Shaking his head, he glared out the window like a lost puppy dog as he made his way to the office. The light turned red as they stopped in front of the old park he used to hang out at. "Stop here, Ted," he commanded the driver. Rodney hopped out the car and strolled over to the park bench. He took a seat and looked at the sun like he used to, then he heard a familiar voice from behind. "Good morning, Mr. Williams. Didn't think I would ever see you here again." Rodney spun around and almost fell on his ass. He lost all the color in his face as he blurted out, "You! I see you have done well. Everything you wanted, just as we agreed. You lied to me. You ruined my life. I didn't do anything to your life. I simply gave you what you asked for, money and power. And the more money I got, the more it pushed everyone away. My wife left me, my kid won't talk to me, I have no friends, my family won't have anything to do with me, I'm surrounded by backstabbers, I'm under investigation, all I have is problems. And it's all your fault. You should have thought of the consequences before you signed the contract, but I never saw that finished contract, so how am I supposed to know the consequences?" The stranger handed Rodney the contract. Rodney read it and said, "A condition of the contract is you agree to trade all relationships for cash received. You tricked me. What did you do? Bribe my family and friends not to talk to me? The deal is off. I want my old life. I'll give you back your money." "All deals are final," the stranger said as his eyes turned fire engine red. His ominous presence and evil expression casted a dark shadow over the whole park. The beautiful and sunny morning quickly turned black as storm clouds rolled in, accompanied by bolts of terrifying lightning. One struck so close that it made the ground tremble beneath them. The eerie vibe sent shockwaves down Rodney's spine as he took a step back and stuttered the words, "Who are you? I have so many names and so many languages. I lose track," he said with a slight chuckle. The thought crept into Rodney's mind. It was crazy, but the name slipped out of his mouth as he debated in his own head. "You're the devil." "I despise that name," he snapped. "Sorry, I didn't mean to offend you. I just want my life back," Rodney replied with his hands up as he retreated backwards. "You humans are all the same. You're so entitled, you want everything and you sacrifice nothing, but everything has a price. Everything. You really are the devil. Why me?" The devil turned his back to Rodney as he looked up at the sky for a moment. "Because he said I couldn't tempt one of his loyal subjects." "I don't understand." The devil looked over his shoulder and side-eyed Rodney as he said, "Me and God had our annual bet. After all these years, I finally won." "You ruined my life over a fucking bet." The devil turned and smiled as he said, "Enjoy your money because your soul is mine." The end.